Start today with the ANC saying it will meet today's 5 o'clock deadline to hand over records of its cadre deployment committee meetings to the Democratic Alliance. That's in accordance with a constitutional court order, the Apex Court dismissing the ANC's petition to appeal last week. The party had approached Constitution Hill, hoping to overturn a decision of the Supreme Court of Appeal that it must hand over the documents to the main opposition party. The ANC had sought to assure the public that it will abide by the court's decision. It says it will hand over all related documents in its possession by close of business today. Meanwhile, the DA spokesperson for public administration, Dr. Leon Schreiber, says that the ANC must hand over all material linked to cadre deployment and not just the minutes of its cadre deployment committee meetings.
The ANC must not hand over only meeting minutes, but must hand over email discussions, WhatsApp discussions, CVs that they considered, and any other documentation relevant to the work of the deployment committee. These are things that go back much further than 2018, and it's clear that the ANC, both in front of the Zondo Commission and throughout this court process, has desperately sought to hide President Ramaphosa's involvement in state capture through cadre deployment from the public. That is why they are now saying that the records prior to 2018 don't exist, because that's the period when the President was the chairman of the deployment committee. And I will just also share with the viewers one interesting fact. If you look at the deployment committee minutes that were handed over to the Zondo Commission, the very first item of the very first minute is the adoption of the previous meeting's minutes. So we know it is not true to claim that those things don't exist. There are minutes from an earlier period, and in any case, we have asked for much more than just meeting minutes.
Our contributing politics editor, Vuyo Mvoko, joins me now in our studio. Vuyo, afternoon to you. Election season, obviously. What can we expect at 5 o'clock? Is a truckload of documents going to leave Luthuli House and go to the DA headquarters in Bruma? Or not like that?
I mean, it's going to be quite interesting. I mean, I spoke to Dr. Schreiber, who you saw, the DA spokesperson, who is MP, who is forcing the ANC to release this document. He says he has no idea how they are going to do it. It was the last time the ANC spoke to them, or to the DA's lawyers, was on Friday when they wanted an extension. As to how they're going to release these documents, he says he doesn't have a clue. But the ANC's statement, which is a lengthy statement, given what it seeks to do, to say, we will do so by the end of business. But it's perhaps pointing to the fact that the ANC is doing this very, very reluctantly, grudgingly, perhaps, is the word. So they're dismissing any rumors that they don't want to comply, saying that they'll do so by the end of business. But then they go on to, again, talk about why cadre deployment is a good thing, that it's about advancing the constitutional goal of transformation. There's nothing wrong with it, the statement goes. But we'll see what happens over the next couple of hours.
It would seem to me that one of the likely outcomes is that the ANC gives the DA something, and the DA says, you haven't given us enough.
Yes. I foresee, a toing and froing, saying there's not enough, because even in the statement, they are saying that there may be records that cannot be found, but they promise to explain. In other words, listen to this line. It says, the ANC will hand over all the records that have been found and give an explanation regarding those records which either do not exist or have not been able to be found. So there, again, the DA obviously is not going to take that lying low. They will want to force them to reveal. But again, the big question is, in fact, what will be contained in those records? Is it sensational stuff that will tell us things we don't know? We don't know.
It's interesting because it's easy to overplay the power the deployment committee had. By convention, the ANC for many years has appointed its deputy leader as chair of that committee. So Kgalema Motlanthe was chair of that committee for a long period of time, in fact. And yet we've also seen instances where it is clear that an ANC leader has done what they wanted. And Jacob Zuma is the best example of that. In Nhlanhla Nene did not go through a deployment committee. Siyabonga Gama did go through a deployment committee when he was appointed CEO of Transnet, and famously Barbara Hogan said, you know, what would have happened if we had appointed a better person there? Yeah. So it's easy to overplay how important this committee's been.
But, yes, but on the other hand, I mean, when you listen to the Chief Justice, for example, when he talks about why he believes this thing is wrong, I think it is important for the public to get to understand how the ANC works. And because it then begins to explain some of the things that we've seen, you know, happening over the years, and whether, in fact, there is any logic behind certain decisions that the ANC takes when it puts people in very important positions only for them to fail. In other words, is there a mechanism, for example, you and I probably know an answer to this, is there a mechanism in place that actually ensures that this process, right, serves the interests of the country and of its people? Or is it a question of someone deciding, you know, in other words, when those people sit there and recommend, you know, a person, what do they base that, you know, on to the exclusion of, you know, which considerations and that type of thing. But it also gives the ANC, or gives whoever, a responsibility, you know, to say, next time you have to deploy people, you have to think about it. In other words, there will no longer be a blank check. You know, that deployment committee would have to explain the rationale behind its decision, which I think is good for democracy.
Could there be one possible bullet for the ANC that they would need to avoid, which would be any discussion about appointments of judges, and particularly any discussion involving President Ramaphosa in the appointment of judges, because it's actually he who makes the final appointment, which would mean that he played a role twice in the same process?
But my attitude towards this is that just as it happened during the state capture inquiry, we may not get a lot of things, you know, but you never know. A line in an email, you know, could be so much, could reveal a lot of things, you know, that even perhaps the best attempts at hiding stuff could be exposed by a comma, you know, or you know, or little word, you know, somewhere. Then we begin to ask questions, and based on those follow-ups, you then know what you may, what may be revealed. So I think let's just let the games begin, you know. Let the documents be released. Let's have a look at what is contained therein. Who knows what we may just come across.
The referee will blow their whistle at 5 o'clock. Vuyo Mvoko, thanks very much indeed. 5 o'clock, the deadline by which the ANC has said it will meet the court's deadline to actually hand over these documents.